Hey guys, Mike and Keely with Long Range with the Lilies. Not in our usual location, so Keely's been wanting to learn about reloading, and luckily we have an expert that we can tap into for those things. So with that being said, our good friend Scott Satterlee is going in.
Guys?
Was good enough to allow us to come in and take over his reloading room and do some filming, and we're going to talk about kind of your methodology and how you get through reloading. So with that being said, I'll get out of the way. I always find it's best if I let somebody else teach Keely, so let me get out of here.
That's some lessons are learned the hard way.
Oh yeah, I can't. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it right there.
Okay, so my first question, and this came from one of our supporters, somebody who watches the channel. She asked me today, she's learning how to reload, and she's like, well, what is a precision round?
Okay, precision round is really, it's set up to where all your components are set up to maximize your ability to be accurate, because you have precision, which is, it's a mechanical function that, the rifle goes in the same spot every single time. That's precision. And then accuracy is actually being able to put that precision where you want it.
Okay.
With, your scope, your dialing,
Right.
and being able to shoot, etc. So,
Okay.
I mean, we can cover that on the whiteboard if you want real quick, just kind of a quick definition of it.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that real quick.
So, here is low precision, low accuracy, and that's where here's your target, and you're just like all over the place. You're not accurate, and you're not precise.
Sure.
Here is high precision, so that's an H. Low accuracy, that's an A.
Okay.
So you have all of your shots in one spot, but you're not in the middle.
Sure.
Okay, and then you have high accuracy, low precision, which is, here's the middle. You're like, which that's okay, right?
Right.
I mean,
they're in the general area of where you.
in the middle, right?
Okay.
And then what we want is high accuracy, high precision, and that's having all of our bullets in one little spot right in the middle of the target.
Okay. So usually when we get factory ammo, like mass-produced ammo, what are we getting? Right, or let's say we want some plinking rounds, is what people call them. We're not loading for high accuracy and high precision, right?
Well, accuracy is a function of the scope and your ability to shoot, and whether or not you can actually get. Typically, with factory ammo, you're going to sacrifice a little bit of precision, but you're still going to be able to be accurate.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then this is our goal right here, that
High
accuracy, high precision.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
So, what's our first step in this process?
The first step is really kind of taking our either brand new brass and getting it ready, or fired brass. We're going to take fired brass.
Once fired brass. I hear people looking for that all the time.
All the time. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, because it might not be fired for your chamber, but through brass processing, you can get it set up for your chamber. So.
Okay. So brass prep first. What does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It can mean a lot of different things, right? I mean, we can go from, we can bump the shoulder, resize the whole thing. We can neck turn. We could remount the primer pockets so that they're uniform. I mean, we could weigh it. We can weigh all of our brass so that it all weighs the same.
That's really intense processing.
Right. And if we're doing kind of low round count, sports, F-class bench rest, stuff like that, where it's not kind of a high volume.
Like what we do.
Like what we do, right?
Okay.
And I would absolutely neck turn, uniform the primer pockets, make sure everything weighed the same.
Trim them down.
Everything. So, and And then what you're doing, you're starting off with as uniform product as you can get.
Okay.
Right? Versus, for me, I'm more, I can tolerate a little higher extreme spread and, half minute, especially on a rifle like this. I'll take, half MOA out of it all day long, just because, I might not be able to shoot it any better than that because it's so light.
It is, yep. What's it at? 12?
It's at 11 with a sky pot. It's at 11.5.
Okay, that's pretty light.
That's pretty light.
The 6.5 PRC.
6.5. So it's a Magnum. It's a little short Magnum.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a handful to shoot, and I haven't even shot this thing at distance yet. So we'll, when we get through all of our processes and we get some ammo loaded up, we'll take it out tomorrow and see what it does.
Okay, so step 1 for brass prep. What do you do?
The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna resize, full length resize the brass, and then bump the shoulder back to give myself clearance.
Okay, so when you say bump the shoulder back, let's. I'm brand new.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So,
where'd my pen? Oh, here it goes. Here we go. So we gotta reshape this brass, or else we'll end up running out of space. So when you shoot the round in your chamber, what happens is the brass grows. So say this is the chamber of your rifle, right? And your brass is down in here, and there's a little bit of space. There's a little bit of clearance here. Okay, once the bullet leaves, the brass expands.
Right, because this is what's happening in here is an explosion.
Yeah,
right?
It's a little miniature bomb going off. Boom, right? So what happens is this brass, for a second, momentarily is absolutely stuck to the inside of your chamber until it cools down a little bit, and then it shrinks.
Right, okay.
It's a unique property of brass. But if we don't bump the shoulder back over a period of time, what'll happen is we won't be able to chamber it because there's flex in the bolt's getting pushed back, so eventually that brass will outgrow your chamber. So what we need to do is, first thing we'll do is kind of define what stuff is that here's our neck shoulder junction, body shoulder junction, okay, and this is the shoulder, neck, body, and then base is obviously this part back here. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to actually push the shoulder back a little bit.
Okay.
Right? We need to push it down. That way we have clearance. So if there's dirt and dust and rocks or water, anything that gets in between our cartridge and the chamber, we'll still be able to chamber.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yep, it sure does.
Okay. And I know some guys will just neck turn, or they'll just size the neck, which is here, which that works, for 3 or 4 firings, but then you're going to have to bump that shoulder back.
So the neck, when you say neck turn,
what we're going to do is we're going to uniform.
Is that when you're trimming it down?
No.
Okay.
it's more than that.
We're getting real deep.
Yeah, so when you neck turn, what you're doing is you're actually taking material off the neck. So, and you're making it more round.
Okay.
So you actually have a cutting tool. You go in there and by hand. Some people can do it on a lathe, or if they're in, if they have this setup for it. I don't. I have to do it by hand. So what you do is you open the neck up, and then you have a tool that goes in, and you can set it to cut off material.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
it turns out shiny and new, and it's beautiful. But and what it does is what that does for you is by uniforming the neck, your neck tension is going to be a lot more consistent.
Okay.
And what I found is neck tension in a lot of ways is more important than your powder charge or your jump. Neck tension's a big deal.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've talked. Mike and I have talked about that before.
Yeah. Neck tension is okay. What's another? Okay. The next thing we're gonna do.
Yeah.
is try to control neck tension.
Okay.
And I do it with a mandrel. So what I'm trying to do, like you can do it with bushing. So there's bushing dies, and we'll get some footage of that because I do have a bushing die that I can show you what that looks like. But I prefer to use a mandrel because it pushes, instead of pushing the imperfections to the inside,
Pulls
push
them
them
out.
to the outside.
Okay.
I don't know if it makes a difference, but the way I reload, it makes a difference for me because I actually do all my brass prep on a
Like an assembly line?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, no, and on a progressive press, I just
Okay, I
chunk,
see.
chunk, because on high volume reloading, I don't like, guys that are doing small volume reloading. They're not doing 6,000-7,000. I'll do 2,000 pieces of brass at a whack.
That's a lot.
Right. So, and that gets me through a barrel. And when I get low on that, I know I'm gonna have to switch a barrel out. And when I'm done with that brass, I switch the barrel out and I reprocess the brass and start over.
I've heard of a couple of guys doing that, and then in the past when we were reloading for two, we were doing load development a lot. So if you're able to load up to your all of your rounds for an entire barrel, that is so much time and components saved to not have to go back and do load development every 200 rounds or every match.
And you have Matt Yor doing your chambers, so they're
We
the
do.
same. Even then, each barrel is a little bit different. But I mean, it's tough to do load development for two different guns.
Right. Yes, it is. Yeah. Usually they're pretty close, but it's still hard. Okay.
Right.
So first we're gonna bump the shoulders back.
Yep.
And then
then we're gonna expand the neck.
Okay. And
then I'm gonna put them in the tumbler.
Okay.
Yep.
And that cleans them out from the inside, gets all the chunks of metal or shavings out of there.
And all the goop and stuff like that, because I use a lanolin alcohol mix for the 6.5 guys. Kind of turned me onto that. I don't know, 5.
I've heard a lot of people use that.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I haven't had a stuck case since. So, but anyway, so I guess what we'll do is we'll go through kind of the process of and the directions sometimes on how to set up resizing die are pretty bad. Like,
we can go through that.
Like coming up when you read the directions and you're like, they want you to bottom the thing out, and I'm like, you might be bumping the shoulder back so far that you end up getting case head separations and like really bad catastrophic failures. Right. Just because you set that one die up wrong. And we'll go through that and how to set it up and how to check it. Okay. So that you can one, be consistent, two, and be safe. That's the biggest thing.
Yes. We don't want any missing eyes or pieces or anything like that.
Or extracting a little piece of brass that because the rest of it's still stuck in the rifle.
Okay, so
let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Okay, so as horrific as it sounds, I do everything off of a progressive, and I've got a bunch of Hornady stuff, and I started off with it.
Sure.
I couldn't afford, when I started reloading, I couldn't really afford a 750 or a 650 or a Dillon machine.
Yeah.
So
good old military pay.
That's right. So this is how I got started, and now I have all this stuff. I think if I had to do it over again, I'd probably get a Dillon 750 if I was just starting right now. I'd do it that way.
And that's what we did. But
okay, perfect. Yep. That's good. Somebody gave you good advice. Okay,
Thanks, Tony.
so what this is a universal decapping die. I can set it up, and it goes for everything from 223 to 300 Win Mag.
Okay.
It just doesn't matter.
And the decapping die takes the primer out, right?
It does.
Okay.
That's right. And what I want to do is I want to get the primer out on one of these pieces of brass before I start doing any kind of measurements, because the bottom of the or the primer can get pooched out a little bit.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about when you look at it, and it can mess up your measurements.
Okay.
So, and then the next thing we're going to do is this is a resizing die. It's just a simple Hornady resizing die. It's a full length resizing die. I take the decapping stem out because the decapping stem has that little ball on it. You know, when you go down and then you resize it and then you pull it back up and it expands the neck, but it's pulling everything up and away from the base. So what that does is that eventually makes you have to trim more. You have to babysit the cartridge more. So
Okay.
I take the stem and the expander ball out.
Okay.
Okay. So all I'm doing is just getting the crunch down. Okay. This is the one we have to adjust.
And this is the one that does what?
It
bumps
shoulders,
the
yeah, it bumps the shoulder back. It
Okay.
resizes the neck. It gets everything back into the shape of
that we
it's supposed
want.
to. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. And then my last die is Mandrel die, which looks like this. And this is how I control neck tension. Instead of using a ball and pulling it up through,
So you could do it 2 in 1, but
I could.
instead,
I use this. This is an expander mandrel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got kind of a loose fit in there, and that's the way it's supposed to be. That way it'll kind of self-center.
okay.
Instead of, you know, if there's just a little bit of yaw to this as it goes in and it isn't able to move around a little bit, it'll you know, make the neck.
It'll make it
crooked.
uneven, right? Okay.
That's right. So those are the 3 dies that I have set up for this. The first thing we got to do here is we're going to decap one here real quick.
So taking the primer out.
Yep, took the primer out, and now what we're going to do is we're going to see, we got to get a datum line. We got to get a figure out where, and this is a 420
Caliper.
with a caliper, and then this the actual aperture here is 420. On a Dash or a Creedmoor 308, you'd use a 370.
Okay, and what does that mean?
That's the diameter of the
diameter?
hole, right?
Okay.
So let's see. This is what I would use for like a Creedmoor.
Oh yeah, that one's way smaller.
Yep, and this is what I use for my magnums.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So here we go. We're gonna get this, since this was fired out of that rifle. We'll spin it around here like 1.6455.
Okay, so you're putting it in there. You're closing the calipers, right? Not too tight,
Yep.
and then you're spinning it
Just to
just to make sure that everything's even and that
That's
it's
right.
seated. Okay, so you're getting a good solid measurement on
Yep,
there.
I'm getting a good measurement, and it's not crooked, or, you know, because I could be out here just a little bit.
that
You
makes
see that?
Yep,
See that? Just a little bit, and it made a huge difference,
it did.
right?
Right.
So I just want to spin it to make sure it's flat and up against this. So
Okay.
164.55. So when we bump the shoulder back, I want to bump it back a thou at least, a thou to 2 thou. So if I get 16435, that's
Okay.
kind of the number I'm looking for. Anywhere in there is fine. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and what I want to do, like, you look at the directions on this, and it tells you to set this up so that it's bottomed all the way out, right?
Yep.
I mean, you don't know how far you're bumping
Well,
the shoulder back, you know, that could be catastrophic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this thing up. I'm going to back it out a little bit. Okay.
So you're screwing it all the way in, and then you're backing it
I'm
out.
backing it out. I'm backing it out about a full turn here, and I'm going to see where that has me. Okay. You can kind of, once you get used to this, you can kind of feel it, like when you get to the bottom and you have to cam it over a little bit harder, you're actually bumping the shoulder back. This didn't touch the shoulder, I think. So what we were at before, 16455, right? Okay, 16455. So we didn't
So you didn't do it at all.
we didn't do it. So I'm gonna turn this in about a half a turn.
Now to make sure, so you're turning, so there's 2 pieces, they turn independent of each other
Yep.
on the die, right?
Yep.
And so you're just turning this top
Yep.
piece.
Yep.
And
With
this
this
is,
actually, there's 3. You've got
okay.
this can move, that can move and this can move. And what I'm doing is I'm just trying to go like this. I'm just trying to move the die
down just a little
yep,
bit.
That's right. Okay. No. Okay. It'll probably come out about the same. 16455. Yep. 16455. That actually moved a
smidgen.
Half a 10th thou,
Yeah.
but that could just be deflection in the.
Sure.
Because I mean these calipers can't measure to the 10th thou. I'm like, especially where I bought them. And I think I got these at
Was it Matt's favorite store?
probably. It was. I know. Well, was it? God, what is that?
Okay, so we're at 16455.
Still, right? So you got to go in a little bit more. Okay, that was about a quarter turn. Ooh, maybe.
Yep. So this is just trial and error.
It is. I'm
until we
just
get it and we're
refining.
going.
That's
Okay.
right. This is the, and I do this every time. So, and even though like I think I'm gonna have this die set up perfect.
Mm-hmm.
When I come back and I do a whole nother batch of brass, I'm gonna redo this procedure.
Okay.
Right. And there's a good story on why is
160.
because I did that once and just came out and like none of my brass fit. I'm like, why would that be? You know, and just, you know, oh, maybe. And 6455 still.
And you can't just crank it down.
No, you want to creep into it.
Just right. Because you could be just right there, and if you crank it down, you're gonna go
You've
way
gone too
past.
far. That's
Okay,
right.
and you can't bring it back at that point.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So why don't we want to bump the shoulder back too far?
Okay, if we bump the shoulder back too far, what we'll have is we'll have a whole bunch of clearance. We'll have a bunch of space in between the shoulder and the chamber. And what happens when that thing goes off is it's going to slam into the front of the chamber, and it's going to have a lot more bolt thrust, right? Instead of being a nice compact tight little boom and all the energy is pushing the bullet.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have all this energy pushing the brass into the chamber.
Okay.
And you know, if you have that much bolt thrust, you know, getting pushed back, you can gall up your bolt. If there's anything in there, you can really screw up your action.
Okay.
And you could get case head separations because now that brass is stretching that whole way. So
right.
if it's over 4 or 5 thou of stretch, I mean you can have catastrophic brass failure.
Okay.
I think this one might have been it. Plus the cartridge
There we go. 164.
20.
Right. So
That might be a little much. So I'll bring it back about 1/8 of a turn.
and that was a massive sudden, like,
Yes.
all of a sudden.
And it wasn't even 1/4 of a turn, right?
No.
Right? There we go. Okay.
So we're gonna start with a new piece of brass.
Trust but verify, right?
Right.
Did you hear it?
That one sounded
Did you hear
different.
it kind of
Yep,
click
I did.
over? Yeah. Okay, so
Okay.
yeah,
So
I'm okay with that. It still might be a little bit much on the bump.
we wanted 16435.
3.5. That's right. So, and it's, you know how it's going to be so hard to get a 1 thou change because just the thread pitch on that, you know what I mean? It's so, and that's why you don't want to go too much,
Too
right?
far, too fast.
That's right. There you go.
There we go.
I'll
so
take that right there.
16440.
Yeah, 16440. That's
right in between.
That's 1.5 thou or 15/10 thou. I'll take that all day long. All right, that'll work. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to lock this thing down. There it is. And now we're in the process of, we can do mass, we can just go through this whole thing and then put it in the,
do them all.
Yeah. So, I won't bore you with that, guys, but okay, now, here's the other thing that we want to work on is, here's a fired case.
Okay.
Right? And you can see naked eye that that hole is bigger than that one. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so let's do some measurements and see where we're at. Okay, that's too much pressure. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is fired, and I don't want to push down too much because
it'll bend, right?
Yeah, it'll bend. Like I can change it quite a bit. Okay.
0.296.
0.296 outside diameter. 0.2495 inner, 250. It should be more than that, but it should be over 264. But it's just like these calipers aren't really designed to measure that well. So what was the outside diameter again? The outside diameter was
I think 296.
296. Okay, and now
2865.
286, so 10 thou smaller. And that's, so we have 3 thou of neck tension, and then there's 5 thou of expansion. So I like kind of a bigger, roomier chamber. So that's a SAMI spec chamber. So the walls on that thing are probably 2960. If I was going to use a bushing, I would probably use like a 291, you know, and that's something that goes down in here, right? And that would give us basically, instead of 2850, it'd give us 290.
Okay, so
it's a little bigger, right?
Okay.
A little bit bigger, a little less neck tension. But the ultimate is to figure out how much neck tension you have, and we'll cover that in a second when we go back to a loaded round. Okay, I gotta write that down though. What was this? 2880, 0.2880.
And that is the...
That's the outer diameter, right?
Outer.
OD.
Okay.
Okay. And when we go through, so this thing's going to actually change it quite a bit here. I think this, I don't know if I ran that through the expander mandrel yet.
I don't think so.
No. So here we go. We're just going to go in here and check. I had 2840. Okay. This should put us at 291-ish. Because what this is doing is it's expanding that neck back out. Okay, and it's making the inside perfect, and it's pushing all the imperfections to the outside.
There we
Yeah,
go.
291.
291. Yep. Okay. Good.
Okay, and then loaded ammo will probably be like 293-ish. So that represents basically 2,000 neck tension.
Okay.
Which for us, I'm happier with if I can get a round to shoot better with more neck tension. I will, because you have better primary ignition, because that bullet has more pressure, more clamping force on it, so that gives you more time for powder to burn before it actually breaks this seal as well.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Some bench rest guys, F-class guys, will soft seat these things, so it'll be super loose. You can almost pull the bullet out.
I've seen that
hand.
before. Yeah.
And they get really good primary ignition, but that's because the bullet's pushed up against the lands and grooves already.
Right. So it's kind of forcing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's right. So let me run these through the expander here. We'll do 4 pieces of brass. The beauty of this setup is, if you want to run it, is this would be, I mean, every time I touch a piece of brass, I'm doing an operation. Instead of having to touch it 4 times.
Yeah, it's 4 to 1.
So I'm decapping, resizing, and expanding the neck every,
Right.
and this is just fast.
Much more efficient than
I'll be done with this 100 rounds in 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
And just stuff them down in the agitator and let the tumbler get all the junk out of it.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and run through these, and then throw them in the tumbler, and then we'll be ready to load them up, right?
Yep, exactly.
Right. Okay, so we have decapped, we've resized, and we've done the neck tension. So what comes after that? Oh, and we ran it through the tumbler.
The tumbler, right?
Okay.
Just to get all the junk off of it and
Sure.
out of the inside of it and everything like that. So once we have what I call kind of a processed piece of brass, I'm going to anneal it and trim it. And what I found with kind of more of your modern case design, like the PRC or the Creedmoor, is you don't need to babysit the neck or the length or anneal it as much. So
okay, so what is annealing?
Annealing. So what happens when we have that little bomb going off is brass gets work hardened.
Okay.
Right? So the more you bang on it, the harder it gets, the more brittle it gets.
Okay.
And with that, eventually you end up not having a consistent neck tension. It's not soft enough to grip onto the bullet the same way every time.
Okay, all right.
That's in layman's terms. I know
Sure.
some, materials engineers, like, what the fuck, Scott? But that's my explanation of it.
Okay.
Is it gets harder and we need to soften it back up to get it back to where it was before. And I know you guys probably see it. I know I see it too, as I shoot a lot and I don't keep track.
No.
I just don't keep track of how many times.
Mike is really good about it. I'm not, me not so much.
That's right. So I think that batch of Creedmoor stuff is all brand new. I mean,
Sure.
there's stuff in there with 4 firings and 2 firings, but it's all been resized and annealed. And I think the annealing is kind of that Control-Alt-Delete-N task. Reset it back to where it was from the factory. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So I can still get really consistent results out of mixed firing on brass. Does that make sense?
Sure. Okay.
Okay, and I do the same thing with this stuff. So every other, I think, is how I do it. Unless I have some weirdness in there, and then I'll do the whole batch all over again, because it causes me more work by not keeping track, but your process is your own. My process is my own. That's right.
So we have this annealing made perfect right here.
That's right.
And so what actually is annealing?
Okay, what it's doing
so what
is
the process that it goes through here?
What's going to happen is I've got it set on a setting, and there's coils down in there to just heat up really hot. And what it's going to do is heat this up to about 700 degrees. And then, and what that's going to do is it's going to kind of reform the molecules to be more even.
Okay.
I guess that's how it works. And I know that the program is either 70 or 71. If I have a question about it, I think some of the Hornady brass, like the initial stuff, was 71 or 72. And then the later stuff is 70. I'm just going to go with 70 because I'd rather under anneal than over anneal. I've over annealed before.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And what happens when you go to try to seat a bullet in it, the whole neck just caves in, right?
Yes.
So.
Or if it's really, really hot, you get a melted piece of brass that comes out pretty deformed, right?
Yeah, everything starts smoking. Yeah, it comes out. So I'm just gonna. This is the most time-consuming thing I do as far as. There you go.
That was really fast.
Yep. I wouldn't touch it. That's going to be really hot right now, right?
You said 700 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay. So there we go, and I'll do a whole batch of those, and it turned out kind of neat. Look at that, you got that little line right there. Yep, and that's how you tell kind of if something's been annealed. I could probably go a little longer on this, but that looks fine to me.
So now, are we gonna wait for the piece to cool before the next step? Okay. So don't trim hot brass.
It's not good. it'll because it's almost melted, right? So, and then you're gonna it's gonna just end up like so. Okay.
Oh man. Okay. So we've finished annealing. All the pieces are cooled down now. Next, what are we doing?
We're gonna trim to length. So, and the numbers you get this from is from either Hornady or Hodgdon or any kind of source that'll tell you kind of what the trim to length is. And I think just off the top of my head, I think PRC is 2.015, which is the same as 7 SAUM, or I think they're all in the same kind of ballpark. So now what we're going to do is we've got to set the little Gerard up. So we've got, we got a cutter head that goes around, and I think you guys have one of these too.
We have,
we
do.
You adjust the inside. So this actually didn't turn out that great. You saw how it's a little bit crooked,
okay.
So that's suboptimal. So let's try it one more time here.
Yeah.
And I think
so. We did one earlier, and then we realized we needed to adjust.
Yeah, it wasn't long enough, or it didn't cut far enough, right? Because I think we're at 2.02, and I think we're still at 2.0195. So.
And we want to be where?
2.015.
Okay.
Yep. So. That turned out a little bit more even, a little more uniform looking.
Okay, so what are you doing? So you're putting it in, and then you're turning it?
Yeah, I'm not pushing in real hard either, or else you'll end up dulling out the tool really fast.
Okay.
So I'm just going in there, and I'm just kind of pushing, holding it still, and then as soon as I start cutting, I will turn it about a half a turn, just to make sure it's all kind of uniform.
Okay.
So let's see where we're at now. We're at 2.008. So what is that? That's 1 thou or 2 thou too deep. So that's not critical. In fact, that cut turned out so good. There's a little bit of chamfer around the outside.
Oh, stop. Okay, so what's a chamfer? Okay.
Okay, chamfer and deburring.
Okay.
Okay, so
I've seen it written on Facebook, people's chamfer, and the first time I saw it, I'm like, somebody spelled chamber wrong. I don't.
That's right. Chamfer.
So what's a chamfer?
Okay, chamfer is the inside. You see how that's nice and smooth, and it
looks like it's going like.
Right, it's beveled. So now the bullet will seep down in there really smoothly, and deburring is getting the outside. So, as you can see here, it just looks a little ragged, a little rigidity. And then here you could tell where the cutting tool took off just a little bit on that outside.
Right.
So we kind of cut it down, we trimmed it down so it's the right length. We chamfered and we deburred it. So this should just chamber perfect and accept a bullet really well. So
okay. So the chamfer is the inside of the deburring is the neck.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And I could actually have this absolutely backwards too, but because I'm like, as long as that looks right and that looks right, we're good. I mean that might be oversimplification, but as long as this is the right length and we've got all trimmed up and smoothed out, that's really what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So trim, and then we load them up.
Now we're ready to load them up.
All right, we're gonna load them up.
I need to load a bunch up for tomorrow because we're gonna go shooting.
Heck yeah, that's the best part.
Yep.
Oh
just go.
Man, go.
All right, you're good, Keely.
Here's the information. I don't care what you do with it afterwards.
You piece it together. Figure it out.
You figure that shit out. That's so true. You're rolling, right? This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome B-roll.
Oh man.